My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. It is Sunday, October 20th, 2024 at 6:06 a.m. and you are witnessing the prosecution of the state of California. And the defendants acting on behalf of the state happen to be currently Holiday Inn in Victorville, a demon-possessed entity that is group stalking under the commercial name of Holiday Inn, who are engaging in what is the criminal act of profiting while state surveillance is underway, which the people of the state of California, and the rest of the world are going to witness how serious that criminal act is and how intolerable it is. It's 6:06 a.m. and as I'm sleeping in my room, the amplified audible activity, which is terrorism that an American citizen has a right to not be subject to, and while you are subject to it, you will document it, and the entity will be criminally prosecuted for all of that which is included within the act of terrorism of group stalking you in concert with the government and remaining in the shoes of the government while all of the pattern of conduct remains underway. That is the systematic maintenance of criminal elements while you are in that environment, and that's exactly what Holiday Inn represents. They are maintaining impossible light activity. The fake sun is remaining over the hotel building, as the documentation shows, from 8:48 a.m. as late until, as a matter of documentation, 5:32 p.m., which that video was approximately 5 or 6 minutes long, and so it's literally down to the minute that video ends. So we could say approximately 8:48 a.m. until approximately 5:28 p.m., which is not the natural environment. That's a specific environment that is established as a matter of evidence. All right, and the entity is also group stalking by maintaining criminal elements. By virtue of checking into the hotel, you're going to federal prison. By virtue of working at the hotel, you're going to federal prison. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct in concert with the government that provided evidence against the people of the state by flying over my head in a helicopter. And in that environment, in that parking lot, my shadow was laid out in front of me, which is not the product of standing under artificial light. They're going to federal prison. The reason why I'm capturing podcast at this time is because the demon-possessed who are severely mentally ill, which is something that is literally diagnosable by your conviction for federal group stalking and monitoring, and it is also something that to be studied, and that's a part of blowing the whistle and exposing demon possession, exposing the pattern of conduct. And the professionals can literally study the behavioral pattern, and they can provide their clinical diagnosis regarding the personality defect of the demon-possessed individual that is a group stalker. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct with impunity. That is, while the demons are witnessing their exposure, they are listening to the ways in which they are going to suffer the penalties for engaging in state surveillance, and yet they continue. That is a delusional, psychopathic pattern of conduct with regard to my observation of the criminal acts of sane insofar as criminal law, meaning there is no criminal insanity regarding an inability to appreciate the criminality of your conduct, an inability to appreciate how undesirable it is what you are doing, an inability to appreciate that it is unlawful. The entity seeks to stalk you, which they understand is unlawful. That's why the government is doing it maliciously. That's why it's also employed through the demonic, because it's happening in front of your face and outside of the P.O.C, where you can understand and recognize that criminal behavior, that criminal pattern of conduct in that demonic environment, all of which is criminal. All right, the entity is doing so in a manner that you are just supposed to not be able to recognize. That is not the inability to appreciate that criminality of that pattern of conduct. It's malicious, okay? The entity is engaging in that, and it's fully exhibiting knowledge and is also fully exhibiting intent to do so and to continuously do so and to defiantly do so while literally criminally monitoring the evidence, which is relevant to how long the demon possessed are going to sit in federal prison, where they will also be subject to mental examinations. It's 6:10 a.m. right now. And the entity, the criminal act that the entity is engaging in is, first of all, you're at work, you're at the hotel, you are on the property, you're flying over the property in helicopter, all of the pattern of conduct which you know is underway. And the people that are going to be prosecuted for it are those that are at the Holiday Inn, as I documented, meaning the people of the state whose work schedule is going to be produced to the tribunal who's going to prosecute, because there will be a systematic assignment. You're going to federal prison. This is the systematic means of an entity that's group stalking, and so it's akin to what is a strict liability basis. Intolerable facilitation by virtue of employment at a facilitating venue. Intolerable facilitation by virtue of, for example, staying at a hotel all night, all day, staying at a hotel as an innkeeper that's engaged in state surveillance. You're going to federal prison. And the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct. And while I'm staying in subject to this intolerable threat to my life, this is the government that's acting through a commercial actor. And this is also the means whereby you can be subject to murder, subject to kidnapping, where Holiday Inn is facilitating that pattern of conduct. And they are, if you will, doubling as an innkeeper, maintaining a business where everyone is presupposed to have some sort of constitutionally protected basis to be at the hotel, to work at the hotel, to engage in noise at the hotel, to move around, be present at the hotel, whereby you're engaging in light activity, audible activity, irrelevant positioning, which is federal offenses committed by a government that has no warrant or probable cause to keep you under surveillance, to even be in your presence, which is how you are able to stalk someone. You have to be around them to stalk them. You have to stay around them to surveil them. The government that's doing it through the people is requiring the presence of the people. No business shall exist lawfully without punishment, maintaining the specific environment and going without punishment under that federal law. You are the government in the specific environment, which is your hotel, Holiday Inn, and the entity is going to federal prison. Acting with impunity exists under the following circumstances today, which is, again, October 20th, 2024, 6:12 a.m. The entity, the demon-possessed, the mentally ill, violent sex offenders, okay, are engaging in what is group stalking by all of the means mentioned. You're working at the venue, you're staying at the venue, you're visiting. There are demons that are just group stalking by driving on PALMDALE Road, pacing around the hotel. And the people of the state are going to federal prison for working and staying at the hotel. They're group stalking together. All right. The entity is group stalking by just being in the parking lot, engaging in surveillance, sitting in the parking lot, not even a patron. All right, this is how easily an entity is group stalking. That's also why you're going to federal prison. Okay, the intolerable facilitation, or the ease with which a public entity is keeping an American citizen with the intention to murder and kidnap that American citizen. In the shoes of the government that will then come onto the quote unquote scene and conduct the investigation around the alleged crime that is, again, maliciously underway. And so the government that's actually group stalking you is then doubling as the investigator. The autopsy. The one that's conducting the autopsy with regard to whatever happens to the targeted individual surrounding losing their life, regarding some sort of crime that the entity that's group stalking you is alleging against you. All right. And the fact that they were targeting you is never a part of the facts that is submitted in a quote unquote investigation. This is all of that, which is why it is intolerable, and you will be prosecuted based on the intolerable facilitation that you defiantly continuously engage in. And so while demons are group stalking a Holiday Inn, the ongoing impossible audible activity of stomping, all right, stomping that's not going to be heard inside of the hotel, reverberating through the walls, not going to be heard in my sleep, again, even while wearing headphones. This is amplification that demons that are gratified, the demon possessed, the mentally ill, the psychopathic personality disorder, it's deriving pleasure out of the suffering of another. from inflicting that suffering, from inflicting that harm that they are also aware of that you don't like, especially while they're monitoring documentation. That's why you're going to federal prison as well. All right. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct with a high level of malice. And no one is mistaken or ignorant of the fact that you're group stalking while you're sitting at the front desk, answering the phones, and cleaning off the keyboard in front of the computer. No one is ignorant of the fact that you're group stalking while you're on the first floor mopping the front lobby. You are indeed engaged in the pattern of conduct, and the surveillance cameras are revealing demons maliciously acting on behalf of the state. No one is ignorant about the way that this system is executed, and you're going to federal prison. The entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct, and no one is ignorant about the fact, nor are you in any way persuasively appearing as anything other than a demon, maliciously engaging in a criminal system in concert with the government while you're staying on the second floor inside of room 212, because you're going to federal prison. All right. The entity is engaged in this pattern of conduct at 6:16 a.m. A violent sex offender that's acting on behalf of the government and whose mental illness is no exception from that criminal prosecution, and slamming the hotel room doors, criminal activity creation, and engineered light while the demons are monitoring evidence on behalf of the government, who has no right to engage, the ability to engage in this pattern of conduct with the demon-possessed who are working and staying at the hotel. And so the ongoing amplified stomping, which is heard inside of my hotel room, that's called amplification. It's a demonic environment. The fact that you're surrounded by a demonic environment, you're going to prosecute civilly and criminally. The fact that you're subjected to the demon-possessed pattern of conduct, that means a population, a group of people are ceaselessly maintaining a terrorizing and harassing environment while they're group stalking you. You're going to prosecute civilly and criminally for that. Your rights are going to be enforced. The federal government will prosecute criminally. Your rights will be enforced civilly as well, and you are entitled to recovery based on not only the physical harms, the tangible and intangible harms, and also the psychological torture that the ordinary target individual is subject to, because a bunch of demons want to keep you under surveillance. That's also why you document. The entity is amplifying ongoing stomping is what it's reminiscent of, the sound of stomping, hurting through the walls, through the ceiling at 6 o'clock in the morning. This is also where the fake sun is rising. These are demons that are group stalking, and even if an expert were to get on the stand and state, oh, yes, absolutely, Your Honor. Someone that is, let's say a male that is 6'2" and weighs 230 pounds can absolutely create what is the audible noise reminiscent of stomping that can naturally be perceived. The acoustics are absolutely naturally capable of occurring, that you can hear such stomping, including to the level where an average onlooker or nearby person, human being, can perceive that stomping when they're walking at a natural stride, and doing so at the time that it's occurring is also relevant, because a normal person that's not intentionally trying to be disruptive and is walking with a normal stride is going to create that sort of stomping noise. And it's going to be also perceived through the walls, even if an expert would go on the stand, and no one's going to do that. And the entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct, which is on its face speaking to audible activity, which you're going to federal prison for. It's furthermore amplified, which is also demonstrated through the impossible light activity. It's also impossible audible activity. So it is not unheard of that the entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct that's demonic. Okay, that's intended to psychologically harm and terrorize, because the question is, how is this happening? And you are engaging in this against your own prosecutor, getting back to what are the mentally ill entity who's going to federal prison. The entity's doing so with impunity, as ongoing noise creation is occurring in that hallway where you see on video shadows are appearing on both sides of my person, and my shadow is moving from being in front of my person to being behind my person, and also rapidly moving in front and behind and all around. That's not the product of natural light activity where you are moving underneath an artificial light. That's called engineered light. And those are demons that are maintaining audible activity, which is a serious federal offense. It's even more serious when you're doing so on behalf of the government, which is only what group stalking is. Group stalking is not that which is underway by a bunch of people who don't like you at a nearby innkeeper's business establishment. Group stalking is what the state of California is engaging in under the malicious guise of a corrupt company name such as Holiday Inn and IHG Hotel. The entity is doing so with impunity while they are monitoring evidence. And so the ongoing terrifying environment, which is present inside of my hotel, and if you pay attention to the pattern, the demon-possessed engage in this criminal conduct. For example, as I documented, the ongoing shaking of the bed. There's no such thing as an isolated earthquake that's happening. The king-size bed inside of these hotels, the floors and the walls are quite sturdy. Okay, so as I knock my finger right now, my fingernail is tapping on this dresser that I'm in front of. You cannot hear this through the walls. It's also not going to create any sort of earthquakes, not shaking the bed. This is common sense. The entity that is walking outside, closing hotel room doors, riding the elevator, driving on the streets outside, group stalking me by driving by, it's not going to cause this king size mattress bed to shake whatsoever. It's also not going to create any sort of noise as that's going to be reverberating through the walls while you are driving by, while you are walking, while you are getting on and off the elevator. The entity is maintaining a pattern of conduct which coexist. They are necessarily and pursuant to a demonic formula. And I want to document 6:21 a.m. as I am tapping, and then I cease tapping, and I move my hand. Demons are still group stalking. These sex offenders are going to federal prison for what it is that they cannot help themselves, even as they are witnessing and listening to what's going to be their sentencing. Violent sex offenders cannot help but to continuously engage in sexual violence, which again, the federal government's going to help you with that. Okay. And it's going to also not only start with your conviction, but you will be labeled as a violent sex offender so that everybody else in the world knows the sexual violence that you have an impulse to engage in against men and women, against minor children, against just any person in the public, which is what a domestic terrorist engages in. That's what a group stalker is, so that the rest of the world has notice regarding who you are and where it is that you want to work and live. As I am documenting the ongoing perpetual sex offense by the demon-possessed group stalking amongst the people of the state, amongst the state at Holiday Inn. Acting with impunity is the sexual violence of a terrorist that cannot help itself, even while those sex offenders are witnessing their exposure and listening to what their punishment is going to be. That's relevant for the mental illness of the sex offender who is group stalking in California. The entity is amplifying noise with simultaneity to my movement, which is demonic. Okay, whether or not the speaker is picking that up, there's ongoing noise that's amplified inside of my hotel room pursuant to what the demons know I'm physically doing. That's also terrorizing. That's terrorism. All right, the entity is stalking you via noise. The entity is stalking you via light activity. The entity is stalking you as a population. The entity is stalking you through the government, who's using a population in concert and on behalf of that government very maliciously, even with impunity right in front of your face, all of which is relevant to the ways in which this entity is going to be punished. You're going to be punished for that. All right, the entity is doing so in a manner that is not going to be tolerated under natural law. Okay, natural law, you're going to be prosecuted for the demonic behavioral pattern that you are employing that's going toward the demise of an American citizen who has a constitutional human right to not be subject to demons stalking them and keeping them under surveillance. And that's exactly what you are on the surveillance cameras at Holiday Inn. That's exactly what you are at all the commercial actors all around. The demons that are at the 76 the 76 gas station, the Argo gas station, Starbucks, the Legends Barbell, the gym across the street, the traffic on the 15 freeway, the Budget Inn on the opposite side of this parking lot, the entity that is group stalking, but literally demons that are sitting in their vehicles right now, the population, all of that is the federal government is cognizant when the people of the state are going to federal prison to be subject to a prosecution. All of that, which is cooperatively engaging in the criminal elements of monitoring, while the fools who are defendants, who are providing their identification, they're providing their images and their likeness, they are providing an admission, they are begging for federal prison, and your wish is going to be granted. While I am documenting the terrorizing environment, this is amplified noise reminiscent of the sound of stomping that's heard through the ceiling and the walls, while the entity is engaging in what I also documented, shaking of my bed while you're in a king-size bed on the fourth floor. This is demonic. All right. Shaking of the bed is sensational activity where demons are monitoring in the specific environment. Amplified noise, sounding of stomping. That's reverberating. Literally the sound sounding like somebody above your head is stomping. And also sounding as though stomping is the noise is literally carrying through the walls, and I'm being as precise as I can be with regard to the ways in which sound is traveling and where it sounds as though it's coming from while I'm remaining in a hotel room. Let me be clear, hearing anything, literally me using the television inside of this hotel room equals the federal prosecution of the state. The ease with which an entity is monitoring you is that malice is going to be flipped on its head. Not only are you already going to federal prison for the elements being satisfied, the entity maintains a demonic environment. That is the ongoing amplified noise, the sound of traffic, the sound of the sounding of stomping through the walls and the ceiling. The group stalking by demons who are opening and closing their hotel room doors, and they do so pursuant to what you physically do. At the same time you move your hand, so a hotel room door is closing, which is demonic. And the entity derives pleasure out of engaging in demonic, and no longer are demons engaging in just funsies. You're going to federal prison. If you enjoy engaging in terrorism and psychological torture, or you're doing so at Holiday Inn, and you're going to federal prison for it. I don't understand what sort of sane I do understand. I'm blowing the whistle so that this can be studied, and the entity that derives pleasure out of engaging in psychological torture and terrorism as an entity who is group stalking and does so with knowledge of the fact that they're listening to the evidence, they're monitoring the evidence, and yet they continue. That mental illness, that condition, that personality defect, that problematic decision-making skill set is what is the subject for professionals. For those that engage in actually making diagnoses, that's what needs to be studied. The entities engage in a pattern of conduct because no sane person makes those types of decisions. You're losing your citizenship, you're losing your freedom, you're losing your reputation, you are losing if you don't have a criminal record, you're losing that status. You will have one of the most severe types of criminal records, which is a domestic terrorist. Okay, the feds know who you are. Okay, and they will maintain knowledge of who you are. The entities engage in this pattern of conduct with impunity. What sane person does that? Your secret system is no longer a secret, and now the obsession that you never wanted to be known is not only is it known, but it's on full display while you're still group stalking. And it's not hidden because you're claiming, you continue to arrive to work because of the work schedule. The entity that's group stalking, and the rest of the country is going to learn, you're going to make some hard decisions. You either stop going to work, which is facilitating the ongoing conspiracy to murder and kidnap someone, or you're going to federal prison. It's as simple as that. The entity's engaging in an intentional and malicious pattern of conduct that's supposed to be to the demise of an American citizen, and that malice is going to be targeted toward the entity, and everything used to further the criminal conspiracy toward murdering and kidnapping an American citizen, which is the system of group stalking that an entity is engaging in, is going to be used against that entity. And it's very easy. There are many routes to federal prison, and it includes arriving to work where you work at the specific environment. It includes remaining systematically, repeatedly at the specific environment where you are maintaining some sort of sense of belonging. Let me be clear. Nobody belongs in the specific environment. The government itself has no warrant or probable cause to be in the specific environment where stalking, group stalking, and criminal surveillance is underway. There is no sense of belonging. You're claiming that you work there as an admission to engaging in criminal conduct. You're staying there as a hotel, as a patron, being present as a consumer, flying over the sky, space, and planes and helicopter is your admission to engaging in that criminal system. And you're going to federal prison. All right, the entity is doing so at 6:29 a.m. Is the current time right now, and I'm going to document the entity that is group stalking. And it's the amplification is so loud that it's disrupting sleep. Okay, that's not only the demons that are group stalking you, maintaining an ongoing obsessive endeavor to maintain the elements. The demon possessed want to disrupt your sleep. They want to terrorize. And this is what you need to appreciate under federal law. The ordinary target individual that doesn't have the P.O.C., all right, they don't have there's no whistle to blow. They're suffering in silence. They have suffered in silence. They're already dead, buried under the ground somewhere. And this is what they were subject to. They suffered in silence. Okay, the entity is disrupting your sleep. The entity is disrupting your peace. They are doing so where beforehand there is no one who you're going to report it to. There's no one who's going to be a compassionate ear who is quote unquote understanding. The entity is seeking to criminally defame you. The entity is seeking to falsely depict you as some sort of either criminal or mentally ill person who is hallucinating, making up, even lying. You're just making it up. Manufacturing, if you will. While demons are indeed engaging in this criminal system, the entity is maliciously manufacturing mental illness against that targeted individual, and a targeted individual that is robbed of the ability to have peace and quiet, robbed of the ability to be left alone, robbed of the inability to and not be subject to targeting. And demons are targeting you through noise. They're stalking with noise. That is psychotic. They're stalking with light. Always molesting with light, always stalking in the path with the method of light. That's called stalking with light. Keeping a fake sun over my head while you are maintaining presence in the path and you think that no one's going to see and recognize that you're stalking. They do. And that's called stalking in the path with light. Terrorism via impossible light activity, that's called stalking in the path with light. You're going to be prosecuted for that. That's what demons do. Okay. The entity is doing so while maintaining presence all around you in the terrorizing environment where amplification is underway, where sensational activity creation is underway. That's what demons do. And demons also do it very maliciously. The demons want to appear as a normal, even a compassionate person, kind, gregarious, friendly, or professional, successful, some sort of powerful. This is all the ways in which you are appearing as anything other than, okay, the worst, a demon-possessed person, a malicious person, a cruel person, but that's exactly what they are. Okay, and the prosecution of the state is not based on the individual identity. It's not based on some sort of carnal appearance or some sort of a position all of that's legally irrelevant. In fact, it's relevant insofar as identifying malice. That's the only way that it's relevant. It has nothing to do with the specific environment, and you will be uniformly prosecuted by the demon-possessed who are engaging in this malicious pattern of conduct. So I just want to be clear. The entity that engages in disrupting the sleep of the prosecutor awakens the prosecutor to be subject to more criminal evidence that I'm going to publish for the embarrassment, not only the prosecution, but the embarrassment of the entity who's going to federal prison. Very foolish to engage in harassing a federal investigator. Very foolish to engage in harassing a federal judge, for example. Very foolish to engage in harassing a federal prosecutor. All right. And the entity's inability to appreciate its demise, to appreciate the fact that this criminal system is no longer capable nor permitted to exist absent very serious punishment, repercussions, penalties, is not the targeted individual's concern. They're going to federal prison for the ongoing impermissible threat. Because you fail to cease to engage in this criminal pattern of conduct by virtue of being in the hotel room across the hall from me, by virtue of being present in the hotel, in the parking lot, across the street from the hotel. You're going to suffer the penalties for that, because that's what the ordinary target individual is subject to. A ceaseless endeavor to engage in the criminal pattern of conduct and doing so in a manner that's never supposed to be suspected. They are suffering on an ongoing basis while obsessive group stalking is underway. The demon-possessed are obsessed. They are obsessed, but they do not want that obsession to be known. That's what Satan is engaging in while group stalking by a government, while group stalking by a people. And that malice, which is no longer a mystery, and the world understands what group stalking is, what it looks like, what it behaves like, which is teaching you about Satan, your enemy, and the demon-possessed, psychopaths and sex offenders that want to fly under the radar. Everyone can recognize that. You're witnessing this entity suffer for what intended to engage in against someone who they did not suspect was going to confront it and expose it and prosecute it, literally provide a tutorial as to how anybody else in this country can enforce their rights. The entity didn't expect that, but that is providence. That is literally judgment. That is literally reaping what you sow. I believe scripture says that God shall not be mocked. Whatever a man sows, that he shall reap. That's literally what scripture says. Okay. So the entity is getting all of that and more that it is due while engaging in trying to hunt a human being down, and then not expecting that actually the hunter becomes the hunted. That's what you're witnessing. All right. It is currently, while I'm being disrupted in my sleep, which again, I'm documenting again, this is what I documented at 8:48 in the morning. The entity is shaking the mattress. That's terrorism. And there will be a dollar amount placed on the threat to my life while I'm subject to what is federal group stalking and monitoring, which is terrorism on its face. Then you're subject to what is terrorism that is maintained at the environment. And corrupt actors, malicious companies such as domestic terrorists such as Holiday Inn, they will be subject to civil damages that are designed to punish them. All right. And to deter everybody else, that is to make an example out of Holiday Inn, who is group stalking me. All right. That's what I want to make sure I'm documenting right now. It's 6:36 a.m. Hello?
Hello.
Oh, good morning. I didn't hear anyone. Can I ask who I'm speaking with?
This is Jason.
Hi, Jason. How's it going? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
No, I can't. I said, how's it going, Jason?
It's going good. How you doing?
I'm excellent, sir. Thank you. I was actually curious, what time does the restaurant open down there?
It would be open at 6:30.
Can you repeat that? I guess the speaker's going on the phone.
It opens at 6:30.
Oh, at 6:30. Okay.
At 10.
Oh, and closes at 10?
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much. You're at the front desk, right, Jason?
Correct.
Okay, thanks, Jason. You have a good day.
Well,
Bye. All right. The admitted name is Jason. He's going to federal prison, so Jason should be on surveillance camera. If Jason is not, in fact, the name of the employee, Jason, whoever his name is, because it's going to be produced. The entity is monitoring evidence and to its own demise. If you think that you're going to change your license plate, if you think you're going to change the records that are going to be produced in your federal prosecution, you're going to federal prison for obstruction of justice. But the defendant's admitted identity is Jason. Jason's going to federal prison. Okay, Jason's group stalking a Holiday Inn and is at the front desk criminally maintaining the elements of monitoring on behalf of the state where I'm documenting ongoing terrorism. And the federal government understands that you are not making up information in the specific environment regarding the demonic entity, the demonic environment that you're surrounded by while demons are group stalking you. All right. This is no longer something that's going to be automatically assumed to be within the imagination of that target, of that so-called target individual, because a targeted individual is within the imagination of solely contended by one who is suffering from some sort of mental incapacity. All right. That's what the entity that is group stalking, that engages in criminal defamation on the internet. Okay, by the way, that's who you see in making such commentary online, so-called freedom of speech that's occurring on social media, for example. No, that's the people of the state. Those are the group stalkers that are engaging in what is their job, defaming the targeted individual's perspective, the targeted individual's position. And they're not speaking individually. They are not exercising First Amendment rights. They are speaking as the state, who is the group stalker, not only engaging in criminal surveillance wherever it is that you are at, literally physically stalking you, but they're also keeping you under surveillance online, where you are also not exercising any First Amendment rights in the shoes of the state, merely on a venue on the internet, where any and all speech can be used to obstruct justice, where you will be prosecuted for it. All right, the entity is engaging in a criminal pattern of conduct, and the law, the facts are following. Where the government goes is where the criminal pattern of conduct is underway, and it includes online. And the people of the state engage in, the entity itself engages in what is obstruction of justice by falsely depicting the targeted individual status. Oh, well, headline news is that the government is indeed engaged in monitoring. The government is indeed engaged in surveillance. And guess what? It's also demonic. And the entity is intentionally maintaining the notion that group stalking is within the imagination of somebody that's paranoid, a paranoid schizophrenic, somebody that's mentally ill, somebody that is socially awkward, somebody that is discarded from the entity itself is the one that's creating that reputation, and that is designed to obstruct justice. It is inherently designed to immediately write off the target individual that will claim that they're being, if the ordinary target individual isn't using this quote unquote sophisticated term of group stalking. all right, of federal group stalking and monitoring, which they're not. I'm the one that has created this nomenclature in order to identify and prosecute, even include create federal legislation, a body of laws that will appreciate what is an established fact that the government is engaged in criminal surveillance in the United States. And there are existing laws that they're in violation of, and they are nonetheless a criminal and on the wrong side of the law, even while federal law may not exist to the extent to which they need to in order to directly punish the government that's engaging in it. And remember, with group stalking, the people of the state are the government. They're not individuals. They're not exercising constitutional rights. They're not legitimate business. They're maliciously engaging and facilitating that pattern of conduct. And that's what Jason represents, while the conversation is threatening my life. All right. The conversation is engaging in that pattern of conduct and doing so with malice. So I want to make sure that this is understood. Disrupting your sleep is in the specific environment is a criminal act because the government doesn't even have let me be clear. You don't have a right to show up to work. The entity is abusing, masquerading as legitimate everyday life. You're looking at what the demons are doing. And while you are group stalking at work, because that's exactly what you're doing when you are working in engineered light, when you are working under the fake sun, and the federal government sees you, you're going to federal prison for that, period. All right. And so it's very easy. The ease with which the entity is monitoring you is the ease with which the ordinary target individual has with documenting. All right. And so while I'm subject to terrorism, the ongoing shaking of my mattress, an impossible occurrence, that's terrorism that Holiday Inn is going to compensate for. That's psychological torture that Holiday Inn is going to compensate me for. The entity is group stalking while ongoing stomping at 6 o'clock in the morning, which is impossible to hear. That I'm walking in this hotel. Okay, yes, I am 5'5" and I'm 125 pounds. However, it is still impossible. The entity is engaging in that which is amplified at all times. You are not walking and stomping such that it's going to disrupt the sleep of another person. And even as you do, you're intentionally engaged in audible activity creation. But just with regard to acknowledging the demonic, which is always underway, these are the demonic features of the entity that wants to appear on its face to just be engaged in, hey, I'm just, walking in my hotel room. I've got my newborn baby. I couldn't possibly be a demon. I couldn't possibly be group stalking you. This is literally what Satan relies on. Nonetheless, you're not persuaded by the enemy's devices. You're not persuaded by the seductive appearance of the appearances that Satan maintains. You are looking at the entity that is group stalking at all times. The specific environment is what controls. The entity that is group stalking on behalf of the state is what controls. The entity is doing so in ways in which are always amplified and what that is always happening in the engineered environment. In other words, and so the ongoing amplified noise, it sounds as though stomping is being not heard by somebody that's walking outside of my hotel room in the hallway, which is not going to disrupt my sleep. It is heard, in other words, it is amplified. Okay, the term of art, it is amplified through literally the walls. The sound is reverberating through the walls. That's the best way to describe it. It's entirely demonic. Okay, it is as demonic as you can literally see with your eyes, that engineered light that's coming through underneath the closure, the window coverings coming underneath the window closures onto the wall unit, the air conditioning unit, and crawling into the depths of the hotel room toward the bed, into the corner, illuminating the corner in the wall, my shadow appearing above my head. The shadow of the couch and the television and the light fixtures, the light stands in the room, the shadows are casted diagonally across the wall. That's not normal light activity. That's not any sort of light activity that's going to occur, by the way, when the window coverings are down. The blinds are closed. I've used that so many times because literally the blinds are closed, but you're looking at where is the light coming from? The blinds are closed. Do you understand what blinds were designed for? Blinds block out sunlight, not engineered light, however. Okay, engineered light creeps underneath and through the crevices. It literally pierces through blinds and wall coverings. All right, it appears above your head, to the left and the right of you, and underneath at all manner of direction. It creates your shadow above your head, your shadow behind you, in front of you. It creates a vacillating shadow, a shadow that's moving all around in ways in which your body is not moving around. Your shadow, in other words, is separate and distinct from the way in which your body, which is supposed to control the way that the shadow appears, but not an engineered light. Where you're working in that environment, where you're present in that environment, you are in the shoes of the state, who is not clever or slick group stalking through and with you. And since you want to act with the state, you want to go to federal prison with the state. There are many government actors who are going to federal prison. So I just want to make sure that I point that out. The malice is what is despicable. The malice is what's being punished. All right. The impunity, all right, is what is deplorable. The impunity is what's being punished. All right. The criminality, the hypocrisy by the state is what's being punished. That's what's being punished. That's what's being exposed in the system of group stalking. And so while I am subject to this terrorism, you can literally call your front desk and document it. Just like it's very easy. But again, do you have to do this? No, you don't. I am providing evidence for the ordinary target individual. You are overwhelmed mentally. It's psychological torture when you are approached with the mindset of being made aware of the reality. There are people, and you may not have a sophisticated nomenclature regarding what it is that you are sensing you're subject to. You may not have that, nor do you have to. Okay. But you are perceiving there are a lot of people that are targeting you in some way, but they're also in ways in which you're not quite able to put your finger on it. But the ongoing noise, every time you move your neck, every time you look up at the ceiling, every time you walk out of the bathroom, every time you stand up or sit down, every time you start using your phone or you get on your desktop or you open the front door, there's always noise and you're noticing this and it's starting to freak you out. And then you're looking around at everybody around you. Nobody's looking at you. You're living it, in fact, in a new neighborhood. You don't even know anyone there. You don't know anybody. You don't know your neighbors yet. You're across the street you're living across the street from, a busy shopping plaza. You don't know any of those people. And what you're looking at them. Everybody's, they're reporting to work and they're just filling up their gas tanks and nobody's talking to you, but yet you're subject to this ongoing environment where you are sensing. And again, you don't prosecute based on senses, but you're documenting what the target individual. I'm exposing what is a psychological harm that you will be compensated for. This is a psychological torture, where an entity that is group stalking you is entirely focused on you. That's again providing the mental illness for the professionals to study, targeting someone and keeping your back to that person who you are fully focused on, and that focus and that that stalking behavior is shown through your presence in the environment, is shown through your activity creations as the elements of monitoring are exposed. What's the objective of the demons? And they are engaging in those elements while keeping their back to you, not addressing you, not even knowing you. That mental illness is to be studied by the professionals. But nonetheless, it's exposing what is malice, and it's exposing the behaviors of the demon possessed, who are aware and are intentionally engaging in that which is designed to psychologically torment another. And the demon possessed are gratified by it. They derive pleasure from it. That's relevant for the mental health experts to study. And that is akin to what is a psychopathic behavioral pattern, by the way. But nonetheless, the entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct where the ordinary target individual that doesn't have the jargon, they don't have some sophisticated, body of work in order to identify a pattern of conduct by a population. They don't have this. They don't have anything to enforce their rights and point to and say, oh yeah, this is what I was subject to and this is what it looks. Yeah, that's what they were doing. That's it. They don't have that. They don't have that. They're suffering in a bubble. They're living in a bubble and they are suffering while a population is pursuing them, waiting, just looking at their time, just waiting for that target individual to dissolve, to literally just to disintegrate into a blob of a being and lose it, if not take their own life, concede to the criminal defamation of the entity in one way or another, stop to fight back against the ways in which the entity is targeting, if not criminal summoning or criminal defamation. You're repeatedly being told that you suffer from some mental illness while you're reporting what the entity is doing to you. And they are indeed fully sane while you're reporting the demonic pattern of conduct, such as your mattress, a king size mattress on the 4th floor in the hotel, shaking, waking up, disrupting your sleep. That's demonic. and such terrorism that's happening, you are not keeping any penny while you're engaged in terrorism. And that's exactly what you're engaged in the specific environment where I am reporting the mattress is shaking and disrupting my sleep. Ongoing stomping, boom, 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 where demons wish that they were powerful. They wish that they were some sort of giant. They're not. That's why they're stalking me, by the way. Okay. But nonetheless, the demon possessed are group stalking, where that ongoing amplified audible activity is the key phrase, is disrupting your sleep. And the entity is doing so in the environment, which is the proof of that demonic pattern of conduct, that those ongoing criminal acts of terrorism, which are maintaining the elements of monitoring. The presence of the fake sun is the proof that the entity is engaging in terrorizing you inside of that hotel. The ongoing impossible light activity is the proof that the entity is terrorizing you inside of that hotel. No employee, any form of employee, the demons that are cleaning the toilets and vacuuming with regard to maintaining elements of monitoring. And they do so revealing their mental illness. All right. And they are sacrificing everything in doing so. That's your own mental illness. If you don't recognize in your mind that you're the privilege to remain in this country, your citizenship is a lot more than perhaps what the $25 you're getting added onto your flimsy paycheck to engage in housekeeping at the facilitated venue. If you can't make that wager in your own mind, that's not the target individual's problem. And the federal government is going to prosecute you to the furthest extent of the law. Okay, never mind what you are incapable of making a prudent decision for your own, for your own life, let alone because you don't have a right to threaten the life and the welfare, the well-being of another while you're group stalking, and intentionally and knowingly do so. Because your mind state is already put into the controversy when you're stalking with impossible light activity, when you're stalking with audible activity. Your mindset is already within it's placed into the center of the controversy of group stalking. You are not sane when you're group stalking. You are out of your natural mind. And your pattern of conduct is fully known. So I just want to make sure I document that. This is what Jason is admittedly engaging in and facilitating while my sleep is being disrupted, while a bunch of demons, including Jason, an employee at Holiday Inn, as I'm making that call and I'm publishing this. Jason's presence is speaking to the malicious engagement by the state to group stalk another. That's criminal surveillance. That is in furtherance of the conspiracy to murder and kidnap someone. What Jason is engaging in and facilitating is no small thing. And there's nothing that Jason is going to state in federal court that's going to help Jason and everyone else. Okay. Jason has no constitutionally protected basis to be in the specific environment. The population is intentionally and knowingly engaging in the pattern of conduct. I'm literally documenting it by the demons that are group stalking amongst impossible light activity. The pattern of conduct is being concentrated inside of the hotel. You're seeing them group stalk with the state in helicopters everywhere that I go. You're seeing them group stalk, terrorizing, molesting with impossible light activity that's being concentrated inside of a hotel. The entity is group stalking with the ongoing maintenance of amplified audible activity with regard to any and everything that I do, including as I document it, that's being concentrated inside of a hotel. While you're inside of a hotel room, let me understand what that means. You have the entity that is admitting to being a sex offender. In order to concentrate that inside of a hotel, you have to be keeping me, a woman, under surveillance in the bathroom in the hotel, when I'm nude in the hotel room, at all hours when I'm sleeping. You're really obsessed because you like to listen to me sleep. You're mentally ill. Okay. The entity is engaging in what is a series of admissions while your group's talking at a hotel. The entity is doing so to its own demise. Everything that Satan sought to engage in through a corrupt government that's acting in concert with a population which is public corruption exposed, the entity is being subject to the power of that malice being directed toward it. The entity is now being targeted with that malice. The ease with which a population can group stalk you, think you can just arrive to work and no one is ever going to know that you're engaging in that pattern of conduct. But for the specific environment, but for the pattern of conduct that pre-existed my coming to your hotel, but for the fact that you're engaged in federal stalking on the venue of the internet via communication devices, you know every syllable that and every screenshot and image that's being uploaded and captured while you're engaged in the pattern of conduct, very foolishly arriving to work, very foolishly, very foolish. Because I'm going to let you know that paycheck is not worth the time in federal prison. All right. The mentally ill, however, they fail to make these prudent wagers in their own mind. All right. There are many ways in which the world and this nation The group stalkers in the rest of the country are going to learn what is not tolerated under any circumstances in order to enforce the constitutional rights of an American citizen who is not going to suffer in silence anymore. You will not be written off as being mentally ill as you report the mental illness of that entity that's targeting you. That's not going to be mistaken. You don't have anything to be ashamed of. You don't have anything to be embarrassed about. You don't have anything to be fearful of by enforcing your rights. The criminal, the mentally ill will not be mistaken for you. That's not going to happen. That tragic injustice will no longer be the case. All right, it is currently 6:55 a.m. and the entity to its own demise, disrupting my sleep. And so I get up and I document. All right. And so that is with regard to the prosecution of the entity that wants to engage in harassing and terrorizing me when you're already subject to federal prison. You're already going to federal prison. Who in their right mind would, engage in group stalking me, number one, but number two, engage in what is enhancing those federal charges? A fool. And I'm surrounded by them. So I'm continuously documenting them. It's currently 6:55 a.m. It is again on October 20th, 2024. The entity is engaging in what is the maintenance of a sunrise at this hotel. And that's literally captured by virtue of the fake sun being present on video, not just my claiming it audibly, which is, again, how you are prosecuting a government and establishing precedent that American citizens in this country are indeed subject to criminal surveillance, because my prosecution, my documentation is groundbreaking insofar as what the governments, other states are doing in this country. So American citizens aren't just making it up. A demonic activity and the demonic behavioral pattern, I'm providing what is the ways in which you can identify what it is that you're subject to wherever it is that you are, wherever it is that you're located at. And you, by the way, have a large footprint, if you will. There's a large amount of assistance that the P.O.C. provides you because of the documentation showing the fake sun over me all day and all night. This evidence remains relevant next year and the year after that and the year after that, just like it was last year and the year prior to that and the year prior to that, because what the entity is doing and what's supposed to maliciously appear as the natural environment. And it's never the natural environment. That's speaking to the status of the environment that you're surrounded by wherever you are in this country with regard to enforcing your rights against an entity that's group stalking you, which, again, you cannot prosecute based on your instincts, based on some spiritual gift that you have, but you prosecute with evidence. But the P.O.C. is showing the ways in which you are fully capable, and you don't have to be a licensed attorney. You don't have to have some legal skill set in order to document the ordinary target individual. Okay, the average level of intelligence. Anyone can enforce their rights against the entity that's group stalking you, that's group stalking it. Okay. The entity that is group stalking you, that's group stalking you. And so the entity is doing so in a manner that you are never supposed to be able to identify, suspect, let alone intelligently articulate. And that's just a fallacy, okay? The demon possessed are deceived by their own leader, that is Satan himself. And Satan himself is both enamored and also terrified with regard to the evidence prosecuting him, because that's exactly what's happening. Satan is being exposed. Satan is being prosecuted in the natural amongst his demons. That's literally what you're witnessing. All right. And it is nothing other than the triumphant victory that is provided by the Lord Jesus Christ. Okay. If you know him, okay, you know when you know. If you know him, this is the victory that he provides to his children, not just anybody throwing his name around willy-nilly and associating the Lord Jesus Christ with all manner of wickedness. This is something that is provided to those who know him, but it is also benefiting the public. Okay. Because this is something that the Lord Jesus is not pleased with. Even those that are not Christians, in other words, are benefiting from the pattern of conduct, because you can enforce your rights. You don't have to be a Christian in order to submit this evidence and prosecute an entity that's targeting you. By the way, that is a testimony regarding the love that the Lord Jesus Christ has for all, for everyone. He died for all. And all benefit off of the word that the Lord gives, because this is a word from the Lord. He's speaking to what the government is doing, and it's demonic. It's in service to Satan. It's in service to Satan. But any and all are able to benefit from it, if not for prosecutorial purposes, but just for understanding the testimony that the Lord Jesus Christ is providing. This is a testimony. All right. And the inevitable demise of the wicked. It does not pay to serve Satan. It costs a lot. And ultimately, it costs your soul. It costs your soul. And that's exactly what's going to happen with if Jason does not, Jason, the employee of a Holiday Inn, as he reports his name, because that demon knows that he's being documented. But the entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct and is doing so with knowledge of everything that's being documented, and that is also providence. It is necessary as a part of the prosecution of the state in exposing public corruption that it's not only answering under natural law, under federal law, but also that it is a matter of public information, that it is openly shamed for what it sought to do against myself. And I'm representing what American citizens have that are currently suffering right now. I'm not the only one that's being group stalked in this country. Okay. But I am, with regard to being isolated, I am being isolated in California. I'm being targeted in California, and I'm showing what that targeting system looks like and how it operates. And the entity is group stalking and is doing so with regard to knowledge of the fact that it's being exposed. And that's not helping the entity. That is enhancing the penalties that the entity is going to be subject to. Everything that the entity engages in, which was designed to cause the targeted individual to suffer, that malice, it's being flipped on its head. And that intended weapon is literally a weapon to prosecute, a weapon to expose. And it includes openly shaming that entity. Every aspect of that entity. Open shame is necessary with regard to justice, and it's necessary with regard to exposing darkness. Remember, in the federal government, we don't have to get involved in, spiritual matters insofar as claiming what your belief is. It's absolutely legally irrelevant. But you can, this needs to be known with regard to what's being, blowing the whistle and informing the federal government about what the states are doing. And an integral aspect of the prosecution, of the punishment, of the deterrent purpose of this prosecution, of this exposure, is openly shaming the entity because of the demonic nature of the system. The demon possessed, this demonic environment, the tactics of the demons, is something that the entity wants to maintain secrecy around. And of course, that boat has sailed. It's been my duty to make sure that I, from the heights, standing on the mountaintop, making sure that you see Satan for exactly who he is, what he's doing, and who he's doing it through, and Satan's tactics. That's my job, literally. Okay, and I derive pleasure out of that. I love exposing wickedness, okay, because I hate it. I hate it with a passion. Okay, the entity is doing this amongst those that cannot defend themselves. They can't speak for themselves. They don't know what to do. They are reasonably suffering somewhere in a corner, literally falling apart. And because you intend to target someone like that, I will personally take on that task and prosecute you and expose you. And it is important that it is openly shamed what the government is doing. And the government includes companies such as Holiday Inn. The government includes third parties such as Jason. All right. You need to understand, and I mean Jason, that is working for the Holiday Inn here in Victorville. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and open shame is an integral aspect with regard to punishing and alleviating this public corruption because of its dark spiritual nature, not providing any space for this system to exist in the darkness anymore. And that is under no circumstances intermingling, separation of church and state. That's not in any way whatsoever. It's just understood, and it needs to be understood, and you don't even have to do. That is something that I will do. Okay. The target individual is a part of doing that themselves, but making sure that there is no dark corner where the entity can maintain any sense of secrecy with regard to the criminal conduct that it was engaging in, the ways in which it sought to engage in it, the intent to cause another to suffer. All right, so it is fully understood that this is not just criminal, it's wicked, it's evil, it's demented. It is the behavior of degenerates who are headed straight to hell, by the way, if they don't repent. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and also the justice that is served while you're being subject to a prosecution and your punishment, the things that you are the penalties that you suffer, all this is necessary. It is crucial with regard to cleansing a population that's engaged in public corruption, with regard to exposing the darkness and shedding light on what's going on. in the corners of society. And literally the state of California is the quote unquote corner of society. The state of California is engaged in public corruption, is engaged in criminal conduct. Spiritual darkness covers California, engaging in what is trying to maliciously murder and kidnap American citizens, and then at every step of the way, falsely depicting that target individual. It is the ultimate betrayal by your government. Something unfathomable, something only that Satan could think of. Okay? But again, this isn't just based on commentary. It is supported by the evidence. And it is crucial that open shame regarding what the entity is doing, what the entity intended to do, and the ways in which the entity is going to be punished under natural law is vital with regard to cleansing a population, with regard to deterrence, with regard to punishment, and with regard to alleviating not only public corruption, but Satanism. All right. There's nothing cool about serving Satan. There's nothing cool about targeting people. There's something wrong with you. All right. There's literally something wrong with you. And that is a fact. That's a fact. And openly shaming this system that the state of California is engaging in as a part of relaying that message. Okay. That's what needs to be heard loud and clear. Okay. And it's also a crucial part of restoring that American citizen that has been subject to this. And it's also recognizing those who have tragically lost their lives, because that's what's heartbreaking. That is what infuriates me. There are people that are already dead, and there are people that are kidnapped right now somewhere by this system. This is what they're subject to, and they're subject to it now because the demons are group stalking in the facilities. These demons are group stalking in their facilities. I'm going to repeat it one more time. They are group stalking in their facilities, in the mental facilities and in the jails and the prisons. They're group stalking. Remember, group stalking is not based on some sense of belonging. Group stalking is occurring in the specific environment. The specific environment is a demonic imitation of the natural environment. In the engineered light, in these facilities, where you know what it looks like, they're group stalking, where American citizens are being kidnapped right now. That's what's going to be addressed. All right. So nonetheless, I'm going to digress here. The entity woke me up, and so I just wanted to capture more evidence. This is relevant toward the prosecution of the people of the state, which is Holiday Inn. Holiday Inn represents the people of the state. This is a commercial means. All right. Corporate actors will be treated as persons under federal law. They are engaging in domestic terrorism, and that's going to be literally identified through the company name. You want to use that company name to engage in domestic terrorism? Understand that domestic terrorism in the U.S. is underway by commercial actors such as Holiday Inn. All right. Sexual violence is underway through commercial actors such as Holiday Inn. They like to engage in group stalking with their patrons, literally engaging in sexual violence while you see impossible light activity inside of your hotel room. That's the admission of a sex offender under a corporate name in concert with the entity who's group stalking you. They're group stalking you. Okay. And they're doing so in an it's very costly. It's very expensive. Amplified audible activity at 7:07 a.m. where you will see demons in the hallway. They're monitoring with impunity, and they're doing so. And they're also going to federal prison for it. So while an entity is group stalking you, they are adding on to their own punishment. So it is literally handling itself. I'm documenting it with regard to civil damages and the impunity with which the entity acted. This is what a federal judge is going to be cognizant of when they're sentenced. All right. And they're not operating within the universe. Like they're not operating by themselves. They're not isolated in this demonic environment. They're acting with the rest of the population that's group stalking all around the hotel. Okay. Where you have the sunrise and the sunset at this hotel. Yeah. Everybody at the hotel is going to federal prison. All right. Not only should you learn to be quiet, tiptoe, but that's not even enough. The entity is going to learn. Not only shall you not engage in group stalking, you shall not continue to engage in group stalking when the target individual becomes aware of it and begins documenting it. You certainly will not engage in posing what is legally referred to as an impermissible threat, as though you're going to defy all of the weight of the federal government that's supporting and enforcing the rights of that target individual. You are an entirely delusional psychopath in continuously doing so and thinking that you're going to avoid justice in doing so. You are muddying your own company name while you do so. You are increasing the time in federal prison that you're going to serve while you do so. Okay? You will be identified and labeled as the sex offender like anybody else sitting on Megan's list. That's exactly what you're looking forward to while you are a delusional psychopath, continuously group stalking, providing a series of admissions against yourself and that entity, group stalking with a commercial actor such as Holiday Inn in the specific environment. So that's the significance of audible activity in the form of a hotel room door closure of a defiant demon. This is why, by the way, you should not, I don't recommend engaging in criminal conduct under any circumstances, but you certainly should not with mentally ill psychopaths who will get you in more and more trouble, cost you more and more money, have you subject to longer and longer time in federal prison. Because that's what you get when you have a hotel full of demons who lack self-control and do not know when to have a seat. All right. The entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct with impunity. That's what I'm referring to when I speak in the vernacular regarding having a seat. All right. The entity will, under all circumstances, learn to stand down with regard to the threat that they're posing against an American citizen. And because it defiantly refuses to do so, that's not speaking to anything that they're victorious in. Oh, you refuse to abide by existing federal laws while you are the government group stalking someone. That's entirely ridiculous, and it's intolerable. And it's met with severe time in federal prison, by the way. And civil damages that are designed to literally dismantle your company. It's designed that way. All right. It is currently, again, 7:10 a.m. on Sunday, October 20th, 2024. This entity engaging in what is terrorism and harassment as an entity that is engaging in a sex offense by group stalking inside of my hotel room. That's where I remain, in a hotel room as a woman subject to an ongoing sex offense. Males and females together, the government is keeping me under surveillance inside of my hotel. All manner of personal and private activity that I am necessarily engaging in is a matter of public information. Okay, that's a sex offense to be appreciated under federal law. And the government has no warrant or probable cause to do so at all. Okay, doing so because of the mental illness exposed by that entity. The mental illness that is exposed while that entity engaging in what is exhibiting obsession with the targeted individual whom it is group stalking. That obsession, just so that you know, is born of demon possession. They're demons. That's how they know who I am, by virtue of targeting me. That's how they know who I am, by virtue of engaging in group stalking. That's what that's about. And that's the cause of that. And that also becomes legally relevant because the government is practicing demonic behavior, the demonic pattern of conduct, in concert with the people of the state who are in the shoes of that entity, in the shoes of that government, not protected under any First Amendment provisions whatsoever. You're stripping all of that which the entity is masquerading underneath, necessarily so, in order to do it right in your face. They're assuming some position of protection, and no, you're not, Satan. You have no protection whatsoever, and everyone sees you for exactly who you are and what you're doing. All right, that's the communication that is being accomplished with the prosecution of the state. It is, again, Sunday, October 20, 2024 at 7:12 a.m. And this is terrorism that's being documented while the entity is amplifying the ongoing sound of, and while I'm wearing headphones as well. All right, so while I'm wearing headphones, the entity is amplifying the sound of stomping that's being heard like through, I'm on the king mattress in the middle of the hotel room and stomping as though it's heard through the walls, through the ceiling, while I have headphones on at that, okay? This is what, again, the demon possessed are not only group stalking you, they don't want to just secretly group stalk you. They want to psychologically torture you. They want you to know in a manner which is designed to harm you. That is, want you to know that they are targeting you, but the demons also want to do so in a manner that will cause you to question your mindset. And you are witnessing also why you should not be questioning your own mental state. You are not out of your mind. You are not mentally ill. You are fully aware and are sensing, which has to be supported by evidence. But this is to save you. Do not question your mind state. You are not out of your mind when you are subject to targeting by an entity that is demonic and employing the demonic against you. It's designed to cause you to question your own mind state. You're not out of your mind. You're not. You are not out of your mind, and nor does the entity that is group stalking you have any authority nor basis to criminally defame you while it is engaging in that criminal system, which is the ultimate bombastic conduct that an entity can perpetrate against an American citizen. Okay? It is literally the ultimate, and what is referred to in the vernacular, gaslighting, literally. Okay? Satan, who is psychotic, trying to call you mentally ill, that's what the entity is doing. Okay? It's 7:14 a.m. and the demon possessed who are group stalking at the 76, at the Starbucks, at the Legends, at the amongst the demons who are California Highway Patrol in relevant position, and the Victorville Police Department, the Big Brothers gas station. I'm just naming commercial actors who are going to be prosecuted as well. The demons who are pacing on Palmdale Road, the amplification of traffic, which is the demonic. That's also, as I'm documenting it, and as you are subject to it, it's ongoing impunity. Okay, that's speaking to, again, they're all doing it under a fake sun, an engineered light, and the mental illness of that population is noted at their prosecution. And a population that is group stalking you and is then hostile because their criminal conduct, because their sexual violence, because their irrational obsession, because their demons is exposed, is relevant to the ways in which they will be civilly and criminally prosecuted, not escaping justice whatsoever. And while amplification is heard, this demon, Jason, by admission at the front desk, is going to federal prison for it. That's how the demonic entity is literally imploding, prosecuting itself. Okay? Everybody inside of the hotel is group stalking, while amplified audible activity is heard inside of my hotel. Everybody inside of the hotel is going to federal prison. It's taking care of itself. All right, I'm just documenting it. Nonetheless, that's impunity. As at 7:14 a.m., the ongoing amplification of traffic, that's a terrorizing environment that's being maintained. All right, and so the entity engages in what is ongoing amplified audible activity as stomping, boom, 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 being heard through the ceilings, there's only one ceiling over me, through the ceiling and through the walls while I'm inside of this hotel room, which is under all circumstances, never mind the ongoing semantics of whether it's amplified or whether you can hear it or not, it's audible activity. They're monitoring. You have been given the knowledge regarding demon possession, demonic activity, but understand that the federal prosecution of the state of California is not reliant nor based upon the demonic character of the pattern of conduct. In other words, the fact that it's amplified or not amplified is going to secure your federal prosecution. No, not at all. You have been given insight regarding the methods of Satan. This is a demonic system. That's speaking to malice. All right. You are actually demon possessed while you're group stalking. Now, this is a word given to you. You can accept that word. You can take that a word of wisdom, that nugget of wisdom, that spiritual insight if you want, or you cannot. The state of California is going to be prosecuted, period. Therein, what is not going to be missed. There is no light activity that is naturally occurring, standing under artificial light that creates your shadows vacillating all around your person and on both walls, as I shown on video. This is where demons at 7:17 a.m. are stalking with audible activity and with impunity, because the demons are monitoring on the video of the internet. This is all built into the criminal pattern of conduct that has nothing to do with the fact that they are demon possessed. They are. The demonic methods of monitoring and group stalking is legally relevant, but nobody has any sort of constitutional argument in federal court claiming, I'm not a demon, I'm not a demon. Nobody cares about the fact that you're going to burn in hell if you don't repent, because your concern about what everybody else thinks about you is legally irrelevant. It's not the basis of your prosecution, and it has nothing to do with how when you stand before the Lord Jesus Christ and you're subject to judgment because of your failure and the warning that you got through your prosecution. This is a warning. You received a warning. All right. But nonetheless, the entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct, and it's not built on some third party's claim that they're not a demon. That's legally irrelevant. And anybody that knows the law, that has no place in federal court. That's not what's in controversy. The environment, the specific environment, which everyone could witness as tangible evidence, you need to know that that's also demonic. So a demon group stalking under the fake sun and engineer light can claim all day long, I'm not a demon, I'm not a demon, I'm not a demon. It's legally irrelevant. The fact that you're in that specific environment, you're engaging in the criminal pattern of conduct, and the way in which that system is underway, how that is executed is also understood, and it is established through a long existing body of evidence. It is referred to as the P.O.C. in order to understand and recognize what group stalking looks like, and it is demonic in nature. That's how you're understanding the significance of walking under the fake sun, driving under the fake sun, singing and skipping and dancing and playing with your children under the fake sun. You're recognizing the demonic, i.e. malicious engagement in the pattern of conduct. It's group stalking, and it's right in front of your face. And that malice is also going to be punished. And you do not have a constitutionally based argument when you're claiming, I'm not a demon. I'm not a demon. You don't have an argument, minions, and you're going to federal prison. All right, so I just want to make sure that I document that. It's currently 7:19 a.m. and everything that I'm documenting while I'm capturing this podcast is ongoing evidence against the entity. The entity that's engaged in the ceaseless pattern of conduct is providing an ongoing body of evidence, ceaseless in nature, with regard to the impunity that's being exhibited and the malice. And that's also being translated with regard to the threat posed by sex offenders. Sex offenders that under no circumstances want to cease to engage in such sexual violence. Sex offenders that are under all circumstances continuously posing that sexually violent threat have demonstrated through that pattern of conduct an ongoing intent and purpose to continuously sexually offend and engage in such predacious conduct. Okay, predatory conduct, rather. Engaging in that with the intent, knowing that you're not secretly doing that anymore, nor is it going to convert to something that is coexisting with innocence in the specific environment it doesn't exist. The whole unsophisticated secret society, the whistle has been blown. Everything that you're doing. So now the mental illness is fully exposed and they're group stalking to their own demise, which they were doing at the beginning. You are witnessing the prosecution, the exposure of Satan. You're witnessing that in the natural. You're witnessing the formal process whereby the devices of Satan are being fully exposed. That's what you, the audience, I'm not speaking to the demons who are witnessing, who are monitoring evidence. I'm speaking to you, American citizens, the rest of the world, wherever you're listening. This is a foregone conclusion. This has been the case, in other words, from the first day that I started documenting. What the Lord God has said, it is already accomplished in the spirit. You are witnessing the formal walking out, if you will, the execution of his word. The entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct, and I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because I do tend to laugh at that which is pathetic. That which is pathetic is funny. But there's nothing funny about American citizens being murdered and kidnapped. Now, it is particularly pathetic, and it is also wildly foolish to engage in this pattern of conduct at this juncture, with this evidence, with those penalties. Oh yeah, that's foolish. That's very foolish. That's very foolish. All right, the entity is doing so with impunity and malice, and that's also relevant to sex offenders. Sex offenders that act with malice, sex offenders that act with impunity, they're a threat to children. They have no business around the vulnerable in society, and that's exactly why they will be identified that as such, like any other sex offender on the Megan's list, except these sex offenders are domestic terrorists. That's exactly how you're going to be treated based on what you are and what you're doing. Period. All right. Again, it's 7:22 a.m. Ongoing amplification inside of the hotel room, which is the ceaseless pattern of conduct. Waking up in order to document the entity that is group stalking via amplified stomping heard through the ceilings and the walls inside of the hotel room, which again, advocating on behalf of the ordinary target individual, that's a terrorizing environment. It is legally referred to as harassment and terrorism as an entity. Everything is occurring as an entity with the intent to obstruct justice. All right. Also, while they're monitoring evidence, it's with the intent to obstruct justice. Very serious federal offenses. If you don't know what obstruction of justice is, the ways in which obstruction of justice is punished, that is layered. That's collateral on top of engaging in domestic terrorism. On top of that, you seek to obstruct justice while you're a domestic terrorist. You're looking at not getting out of federal prison anytime soon, to put that in very plain terms. Okay. You're going for a long time. All right. So again, it's 7:23 a.m. on Sunday, October 20, 2024. Jason is indicative of the entity that is group stalking. The entity is acting through one. One is acting through on behalf of all, in concert with all. And Jason is representing the malicious engagement in that pattern of conduct. And that's why I'm calling the front desk. Who is group stalking? Who's going to federal prison while I'm subject to terrorism? One of many. His name is Jason at the front desk, working for Holiday Inn. All right. A malicious corporate actor. This is P.O.C. Hi. Hi. Is everything okay?
Yes.
Yes. Alrighty, that is the audible activity that Maria L. the so-called supervisor. This is a demon, and this is a violent sex offender, and it's so violent, so obsessed, so determined. She is invading my hotel room, and you will see the sex offender that's group stalking inside of room 425. These are the employees who are going to federal prison. Holiday Inn is indeed group stalking. Holiday Inn is a violent sex offender by virtue of not only the specific environment that is Holiday Inn, but the demon-possessed sex offenders who are employed by Holiday Inn and are doing so in the specific environment. The fake sun is right now over my hotel room, and impossible light activity through the under closed blinds, the window coverings, are appearing inside of the depths of the hotel room. That's impossible light activity. That's speaking to also what you'll see in the hallway, where I'm capturing the environment where these demons, including Maria L., so-called supervisor, and the demon that is group stalking. This is a sex offender obsessed with my genitalia. All right, group stalking for the criminal purpose also to obstruct justice. And this is while I am publishing podcasts, which all of the entity, including the demons that are working at Holiday Inn, are aware of. And that's why they are pacing inside and out of room 425, right adjacent to my room, and 423, closing the doors in and out. And you'll see the details of this criminal pacing and engineered light on behalf of the state. This is an entity that's engaged in monitoring inside of the hotel, which is a specific environment. There is no lawful or legitimate business underway. Holiday Inn's engaged in the federal offense of domestic terrorism. They're group stalking. And they're group stalking while they're also profiting. And so this is, again, the civil and criminal prosecution of Holiday Inn at 15494 Palmdale Road. You will see images of the demon group stalking, and the noise that you heard. This is a housekeeper. It sounds as though she is taking one of the lamps, because there's not too much that you can engage in. Closing she sounds as though she's raking the wall. She's creating noise while that demon knows that I'm in the hallway. She's monitoring me while she's group stalking in the hotel room. She knows that I took a picture of the hotel room number. All of this is free conduct, but understand what it is that I'm pointing out. These demons are group stalking me, and they're also demons that are engaged in federal stalking while they are outwardly trying to conduct themselves as though they don't. Because why would you know that I'm in the hallway if you can't see through the walls, right? You can't see through the wall. No, demons can't see through the wall. I'm going to say these demons are not seeing through the walls. These demon-possessed people are aware of my physical presence. They're monitoring. That's how they're able to stalk with simultaneity, the creation of noise in engineered light, which is accomplishing the elements of monitoring. That's criminal surveillance by the state while that fake sun remains over this hotel. These are indeed demons that are wearing Holiday Inn uniforms, accessing the hotel rooms around me. That is the ongoing maintenance of demons who are pacing and stalking with noise. That's also harassment that Holiday Inn is going to compensate. That's harassment as an entity, terrorism as an entity. That's also engaged in federal stalking in violation of Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. It is also notable with regard to things such that are that these demons are candidates for. That includes deportation. If Maria L. is not a natural born citizen, this country will happily deport the likes of her and everyone else out of this country. All right, and this is a sex offender that has no remorse whatsoever. She's entirely malicious and engaged in what is exceedingly violent criminal conduct of a sexual nature. She violates my safety and creates an impermissible threat toward my life and safety while entering my hotel room. Remember, this is not just bad customer service. This is a demon, first of all. This is a third party. And she's engaging in what is crossing a path by entering into my hotel room based on my request of this demon that's group stalking room 425, which I requested just to document that sex offender. Okay, and requesting coffee cups is not the permission or consent to enter into my hotel room. The entity is engaging in what is knowledge of what I'm doing in my hotel room. So while I am in the hotel where the fake sun is over, an engineered light fills my room and the hallway where this demon Maria L. is group stalking by virtue of coming and providing those coffee cups, the entity is then entering into my hotel room. In her name badge, you will see her in images. It's 3:03 p.m. So you will see her at 2:58 p.m. You'll see the images of the sex offender who's going to federal prison. And if Maria L. is not a natural born citizen, Maria L. has met her last year in the United States. Okay, 2024 is the year she's going to be subject to not only federal prison, she's then going to be deported. And this is a sex offender that has no remorse, which is the mental illness of psychopaths who are the psychopathic personality disorder, sex offenders that are acting more and more aggressive as you document and expose them. The ongoing amplification of noise inside of my hotel room is the evidence of it. Those are the demons right now at 3:03 p.m. Slamming the doors in the hallway where they have multiple shadows and doing so under the fake sun. Maria. Yeah, that's Maria pacing in and out of hotel rooms. Maria's going to federal prison. And the demons are group stalking. That hotel room door closure is audible activity while you have not the explanation of the artificial light where Maria L. And the demon that you see with the tool in his hand, he's group stalking inside of room 425. That demon is pacing in alignment with me under the fake sun while I'm in use of my communication devices. So what these demons are doing are they are monitoring evidence, which is federal stalking. That's the basis of federal prison, in addition to federal prison, period, for engaging in what is the malicious and intolerable facilitation of group stalking. That is criminal surveillance with the government, while you have the audacity, the nerve to profit off of it. And everyone knows, including the federal government, most importantly, knows exactly what you are, what you're doing, and the fact that you're also profiting while you're doing it. And the entity is notable is because the entity that is monitoring evidence is aware of the fact that you are documenting it, and yet that sexual violence and that terrorism occurs. It continues. That's relevant to how long these violent sex offenders are going to sit in federal prison, okay? And they belong in cages. They really do. The entity is engaging in more and more harassment and terrorism as an entity, more and more sexual violence as they are monitoring evidence, which is the behavior of mentally ill psychopaths who increase in violence. They increase in the sexual predatory behaviors with the intent to further harm, further harass, further terrorize the one whom they're targeting and who is exposing them. So again, that's the foolishness of trying to attack, for example, the investigator, a federal judge, a federal prosecutor, because you're not dealing with the corrupt courthouse in Victorville or somebody at some state level, okay? The entity is going to be prosecuted with an aspect of the government that they cannot corrupt, okay? They can't pollute. They can't act, with regard to the pattern of conduct, they're not acting in sync. The federal government's actually going to prosecute this criminal system, and no demonic spirit is going to stop that. There's no witchcraft that the entity can engage in that's going to, under any circumstances, stop the wheels of justice at the federal level. Okay, this is what the entity is relying on, and they don't have a prayer. I just want to make sure that this is, you hear me stating Maria's name. Maria is the demon, and you'll see her. That's why she's in the hallway coming out of 423, and that demon's creating a substantial noise, and that's why I started recording it. With knowledge, this demon knows, she walks out, and because this is how obsessed they are, she's walking out, not because she doesn't know that I'm recording. She knows that I'm recording, and she comes out to engage in audible activity and light activity. And she's doing so while I am documenting criminal presence and light activity. And that's the sex offender that is a threat to my life, entering into my hotel room because of my request for coffee cups. And understand, the demons are not only do you not have consent to enter into my hotel room, while I'm in it, I can be engaged in private activity. I can be physically indisposed, which you should not be walking in on your nude hotel guests. Why would you do that? You're doing that when you're group stalking, but let me be clear, understand the demon possessed know exactly what I'm doing. So because they're stalking just like they are now with audible activity, they know what I'm saying, they know what I'm doing. This is a sex offender that knew that I'm in the room walking toward the door. This demon is taking that opportunity to monitor by virtue of feigning ignorance, which is again not providing her consent to enter the room. This is a sex offender that is hunting you down by entering your room, so understand that. Very aggressive conduct. Very aggressive and threatening. And she's going to federal prison, and that's relevant to the damages the Holiday Inn is going to compensate for. This is not purely horrible customer service and a failure to execute upon a request. This is a demon-possessed person. This is a malicious third party who's engaged in state surveillance and is entering the room communicating a threat while doing so. That's the state. Okay, and doing so with regard to federal stalking, which the entity is doing. You'll see the images as the screenshots, the images of group stalking by virtue of entrance by Holiday Inn employees inside of room 425. This is a demon that's doing so. I'm capturing the specific environment, and the moment that is a demon meeting in the path. You're already in wait. You're a psychopath that's pacing while I open the front door of my hotel, and you'll see that sex offender. I took a screenshot so you could see an up-close image of his face. He's group stalking by pacing in and out of 425. The hotel room door closure is the means of stalking with audible activity. They're doing so in the hotel where impossible light fills the hotel. As this demon, this is the male captured in the images, which you will see at excuse me, not 4 o'clock, at 2:39 p.m. The moment that I open the front door, this sex offender is right in the path, already in a relevant position, coming toward the door, of course, right next to me. Doing so again at 3:08 p.m. right now, monitoring evidence, and that's why that sex offender is going to federal prison. All right, that ongoing impunity is noted. Again, sex offenders act to their own demise, and they do so admittedly speaking to the sexual violence that they are engaging in as an entity. Let me be clear. Randy German and the sex offenders of the Victorville Police Department are as obsessed, demon-possessed, group stalking by these obsessed demons who are going to federal prison for it. Okay? The state is monitoring through these psychopaths who are presenting evidence against themselves. And it is speaking to what the whole entity is engaged in. They're pacing on Palmdale with these demons who are pacing in the hotel, using hotel room doors as a means of stalking with noise, the communication of hostility while you're monitoring evidence. You're just engaging in what is ongoing monitoring. Slamming a door and engineered light is criminal monitoring. P.O.C. 3:09 p.m. Okay, this is what Maria this is what Maria L, the demon that's housekeeping, is engaging in. Also, the demon that is going in and out of room 425 right next to me, and they're doing so in real time. They're doing so under the fake sun and an engineered light. And the entity that's keeping a light source over me, which I will remind you of at 3:10 p.m. The entity is doing so with regard to maintenance of the fake sun over my window, over my apartment at Alvarado Gardens, where demons are group stalking. Hi. Oh, thank you so much for emptying my garbage.
Okay.
All right, capturing light activity, relevant positioning, and audible activity by another third party who is, again, group stalking under the fake sun. All right, the engagement in duties regarding housekeeping is legally irrelevant with regard to it's nothing other than a method of maintaining the elements of monitoring that mentally ill demons engage in with regard to knowledge of everything that you do as you do it. And that's exactly what's occurring. This is harassment and terrorism under the guise of emptying the garbage. Maria L, this is a hostile demon and a sex offender that's mad because I'm taking her picture, which she knows, but she shouldn't know. But demons know exactly what you're doing on your communication device. And while I'm talking to this demon, looking at her face and telling her that she never should have opened my door, which she shouldn't. I continue to capture very foolish conduct. You have what is the sex offender that's group stalking inside of room 425, 423. They're pacing in the rooms, in other words, around the immediate environment, maintaining noise and pacing around. I just want to be clear. A freak weirdo, which is a psychopath who's stalking you, is pacing back and forth. That's what pacing, I mean, to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right. That's what pacing is right in front of you. That's what demons are doing. They do it by trying to hide that psychotic appearance on its face. On its surface, it looks weird. The demon-possessed don't want to do that necessarily. They do it many times. Loading and unloading a vehicle, walking to and from a building. I'm carrying something. I'm delivering something. I'm completing something. I'm fixing something. I'm walking in and out of. They're pacing. And the light activity and the fake sun, the engineered light, the entity stalking by helicopter, the amplified audible activity, the impossible light activity. You're recognizing demons who are pacing. These are psychopaths who are stalking you obsessively. And they're also obsessed with your genitalia. Okay, they're violent sex offenders who are also obsessed with any and everything that's happening regarding the moments when you're nude, the moments when you're in the bathroom, when you are engaged in any personal or private conduct that should not be public information amongst the demon-possessed population, but it is. It's public information. The entity is also engaging in that with the criminal intent to obstruct justice. While they're monitoring evidence, the entity is engaging in this same exact demonic behavioral pattern, which is affecting the operation of the internet, which is why you will see the picture of the message appearing on the internet stating that it's unable to process the audio. That's also why these demons are going to federal prison. That's federal stalking. There's nothing wrong with the internet. There's nothing wrong with the use of that website. It is the ongoing tactic to obstruct justice, trying to stop an American citizen from publishing evidence. That is literally how American citizens are going to protect themselves and enforce their rights. And for the government, because that's what Holiday Inn represents, to engage in that, you're going to federal prison. That's also evidence of impunity and malice while these demons are pacing in and out of the hotel room. You'll see the fake sun, you'll see the engineered light, you'll see the demons in the hallway, you'll see their presence in the hotel rooms. They're monitoring evidence. That is a federal no. A very serious one, Maria L., who's going to federal prison, who had the nerve to enter my hotel room. The demon, the sex offender, entering with keys. They're not using key cards, they're using keys, notably. And they're entering into the adjacent hotel room, 423, 425, for maintenance of noise, for movement in the engineered light, while they're monitoring on a communication device that's federal stalking that they're simultaneously engaged in, while they're engaged in state surveillance on behalf of the state, in concert with the state. In concert with those demons on PALMDALE Road, in the parking lot, in all of the facilitating venues all around this hotel. And how do you know? Because as I've already documented, as I go to Legends Barbell across the street, you know where the fake sun is? It remains over me as I go across the street. And that's how you know that all of this entity is group stalking me. It is very, very specific with regard to the specific environment. When I'm using that word specific twice, I'm speaking to, it's not ambiguous because the light source is in the sky. And by the way, it's not high up in the sky. It's hovering right over the building. And astonishingly, no group stalker in helicopter is ever set on fire. No group stalker in planes ever they're never set ablaze. The building itself doesn't set on fire while that light source is literally hovering over the roof, or hovering directly above the window, and hovering also directly above my vehicle as I'm in traffic. That's not the sun. And that's the identification of demon-possessed people who represent an entity who are group stalking. They're also engaged in federal stalking. And that's what Holiday Inn is going to be, literally the brand name, Holiday Inn is going to be prosecuted. And the demons working for Holiday Inn are going to federal prison. And they literally want to go. They have no regard for their freedom. They have no regard for remaining as a citizen in this country. They have no regard for their criminal record, which will speak to domestic terrorism and being an exceedingly violent sex offender, one of the worst that you can be, where you are a sex offender as an entity. All right. The entity is this is what they're facing. They're listening to it. They're trying to obstruct the ability to publish it, which is, again, feckless and futile. That's why it's within the pattern of conduct. I've been documenting obstruction of justice by federal stalking for years. You have, again, a bunch of low IQ demons who are group stalking to their own demise. You're going to federal prison. You're acting in conformity to a well-documented P.O.C. You're not going to stop publishing of the evidence, but your mental illness is hereby noted, and you're going to federal prison for being such a malicious and determined sex offender. Because that's exactly what they are. Jason, who was answering the phone this morning, Maria L., who entered my hotel room, the demon group stalking, entering, exiting 423, and all these hotel rooms on the 4th floor, all they're doing is stalking me. Because that's all you're doing under the fake sun and engineered light. And since you are such an uncontrollable sex offender, not only are you going to federal prison, but it's the duty of the federal government to make sure you are appropriately labeled, if you can even remain in this country. Meaning, if you're not a natural born citizen, that's one less sex offender in the U.S., okay? That's one less sex offender. However, those that are unfortunately naturally born citizens, they will be appropriately labeled, and they will no longer walk around without any label for the public to be able to recognize them. The threat that they are to children, the threat that they are to even those that are over the age of majority, stalking you, sexually targeting you, harassing you while you enforce your rights against them, and their mental illness is also fully known, the threat that they pose to the public and themselves. Okay, it's currently 3:16 p.m. That specific environment is present, and I'm gonna go ahead and capture the images that are already captured. Will be added to the Google Drive. Holiday Inn is engaged in ongoing harassment and terrorism as an entity. Holiday Inn is going to be literally the brand name is going to be subject to prosecution, and also the demons that are working, the third parties that are working for the third party company are going to be criminally prosecuted. Okay, Maria L. doesn't have any pockets for me to drain. Maria L. is going to federal prison. All right, in the rest of the demons, you'll see them in images, and it's not just limited to that. The entire workforce, that's everybody at all levels. It's not just the housekeeping. It's not just the front desk personnel. Every level with regard to employment that's engaging in the elements of monitoring at Holiday Inn at 15494, they're all going to federal prison. Every single last one. I don't care if you're on your lunch break right now. You are working in the building. You're working outside of the building. You're going to federal prison. And so are the demons that are checking out hotel rooms, acting on behalf of the state. They're doing so on a systematic basis, and they're doing so in concert with these highly unintelligent demons who are getting, and let me be clear, the rest of these demons, they're not apologetic. They're not in any way standing down with regard to the threat. They walk hand in hand with the rest of these idiots stalking under a fake sun. all they do is alternate. They're doing the same thing on an ongoing basis. And this is, again, the implosion of federal group stalking and monitoring, which was never an intelligent system. It has never been elite or sophisticated. The entity relies on public corruption, an abuse of power by a corrupt government for this type of criminality that is highly unintelligent to persist amongst a bunch of demons that don't even need a high school degree. Okay, because you clearly don't. Engaging in this behavior with at this level of evidence and the ways in which you're doing so, and the person to whom you're doing it, it's imprudent and it's highly idiotic, okay? The ongoing amplified noise at 3:18 p.m., the demons that you see emptying the garbage, and in addition to that, you have the entity. Is everything okay, sir?
Yeah.
Alrighty, capturing substantial video where you will see the very demons who are group stalking. These are two Latino males keeping a woman under surveillance on behalf of the state. This is an exceedingly violent sex offense and domestic terrorism, the substance of which is what captured in this video. You'll see the impossible light activity inside of the depths of a hotel, and it's supposed to be caused from sunlight that's shooting horizontally in order to appear inside of the depths of a hotel. That's absolutely impossible light activity. It's directed lights, engineered light, as I've referred to it. It is the hallmark for recognizing state surveillance by the demon possessed who maliciously target you and are acted outwardly and you're seeing unpersuasively and literally ignorantly, because there is nothing that you are doing that is other than maintaining the elements of monitoring. The demon possessed have been under the false idea that you can engage in looking like you're not group stalking because you have a job at a place, or looking like you're not group stalking because you live at the specific environment, or looking like you're not group stalking because you're friendly, or you say something nice, or you do something. All of this is absolutely absurd. You're looking at demons and you're recognizing malice and the inexplicable placement of that light, the indisputable placement of the fake sun, 8:48 in the morning, and what I captured on video, the fake sun at what is 3:19 to 3:26. That video ended at 3:26 p.m. That's the specific environment where demons are group stalking by virtue of placement in the hotel room adjacent to me. That's called relevant positioning. And as I'm documenting on the podcast, the audible activity got louder and louder. That's the pattern of conduct by demons who are not only engaging in the elements of monitoring, but they engage in more harassment and terrorism as an entity, while sex offenders who are necessarily invading privacy, all right, are hostile. That's that mental illness, psychopaths, meaning they're just mad because you're documenting, calling them what they are. Sex offenders are mad when you refer to them as sex offenders. Psychopaths are mad when you refer to them as stalkers who are psychopaths. And that's the product of that video that I captured, where you will see the specific environment, and you will look at that also, not only with regard to the body of evidence speaking to my location in entirely different places, such as Los Angeles, which is what I referenced. The entity is keeping a fake sun over the Alvarado Gardens where I'm living and working. At no point did I leave when I'm documenting that. There are points that I would go to the U.S. store where the fake sun remained over me. I documented an impossible light inside of that U.S. store. And the entity, which I juxtaposed the placement of the light source here and being in Glendale. By the way, pay attention to the video that I documented yesterday, October 19, 2024. The sun that's remaining from 8:48 in the afternoon, and I'm looking at it above my window at 2:48 and 2:47 in the afternoon. That's non-movement, which is a scientific impossibility, and it's also exclusive, meaning there's no sun over the UPS store in Glendale, contrary to what I captured when I'm in Glendale. That's not the sun, however. That's not the natural environment, and the two are not happening at the same time. There's only one sun, not 14. Say it with me, all right? One sun, not 14. And the one sun could not possibly be over you while I'm documenting it remaining over me at yet another venue, Holiday Inn at 15494 Palmdale Road, where demons are engaging in what is harassment and terrorism as an entity while engaging in the perpetual sex offense in concert with the state of California at a third-party facilitating venue, Holiday Inn, who will be subject to civil and criminal prosecution, while the entity is threatening my life and my safety, engaging in the predatory conduct of group stalking, and then engaging in what is more harassment and terrorism, that is threatening your life more, engaging in more hostility and more aggressive criminal conduct because they are merely mad that you're documenting and enforcing your rights, which is the pattern of conduct by the entity that is mentally ill, that to engage in obstruction of justice. It's right in consistency and alignment with the documentation that's already sitting on the record. That's what the demon possessed that represent Holiday Inn are engaging in. And you will see that video. That's what I captured right now. And it is currently 3:38 p.m. The entity is keeping the light source over me at this hotel, which is mutually exclusive to it being over the La Quinta Inn on Mariposa Road, which again at 4 p.m. after coming from the Dunia Plaza, the entity is group stalking at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, approximately at around 2:19. The entity is group stalking by helicopter. I'm driving around in that parking lot. This is just juxtaposing what the entity is doing in the city of Victorville, which is not possible to keep the fake sun over Holiday Inn in Victorville on Palmdale Road. The entity is keeping that was actually Hesperia, not Victorville, but Hesperia is right next to the city of Victorville, but I'm just speaking to quote unquote close proximity with regard to the locations of the cities. And in Hesperia, the entities group stalking during the 2 p.m. hour and keeping the fake sun over me while doing so by helicopter. And and that's at the Dunia Plaza. And in that video where I'm capturing terrorism and psychological torture by using helicopters to engage in group stalking in concert with the population, which is what Holiday Inn, this is the population just doing it under the guise of what is the operation of a business. And you're looking at what is malice and criminal conduct by a business relevant to RICO charges, by the way. The entity is engaging in this criminal pattern of conduct in a manner that is absolutely incongruent with any sort of natural environment that coexists with the light source being with the sun, because it's consistent with the light source. Stalking with a fake sun, but it's inconsistent with the sun that would be in a position capable of being captured over my head while I'm in my vehicle driving around in the parking lot at the Dunia Plaza in front of Walmart, where the entity flew over that Walmart, not over Victorville, anywhere near the Palmdale's Victorville Holiday Inn. It's flying over Walmart, where the fake sun is over me at the Walmart, and that light source is literally remaining over me while I'm on video in that parking lot of Walmart, which is where it remained. I exited Walmart after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, driving back. It's nearly 4 p.m. I'm just going across the street from Bear Valley Road to what is the Mariposa Road, where the La Quinta Inn is. And at 4 p.m., in the same position where the light source is at 9 o'clock in the morning, capturing the P.O.C. in other words, the fake sun is remaining over me at the La Quinta Inn in Hesperia, California. Well, I've already captured the fake sun at 4 p.m. at the entrance of the Holiday Inn in Victorville, which is not over Mariposa Road, over the La Quinta Inn. It's also not over 408 West G Street, Woodside Senior Apartments. It's also not remaining over the entrance of the Best Western in Costa Mesa, California, on Newport Boulevard. This is the specific environment where you're recognizing a highly malicious system, where group stalking, the crime scene is recognized, and everything is taking on a criminal context with regard to the environment that is being maintained, where you're being targeted by those of a specific condition in a specific environment. And it's criminal. It's demonic activity, which is maintaining demonic elements, maintaining noise in engineered light. That is literally stalking you while that environment pursues you, which is demonic. It is outside of the operation of nature, which is why it's documented. So that when people are reporting things such as there's an isolated earthquake inside of my hotel room, the mattress was shaking, okay, and everyone's acting like nothing happened. Everyone is actually defaming me and harassing me, and more of that conduct. The entity is engaging in what are demonic methods of targeting people, harassing and terrorizing them while they are doing so. And also the proof of that demonic and terrorizing occurrence is literally the demonic. The fake sun remains over that venue for 11 plus hours in the day. That's also not the natural environment, and it is to the exclusion of any other address in the ways in which I just exemplified. Pay attention to what's happening at La Quinta Inn in Hesperia, California. Pay attention to what's happening at Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario, California. Pay attention to what's happening at the Holiday Inn in what is Hesperia off of 9750 Key Point. This is speaking to a specific environment while I'm going from one venue to another. But I've also been, for those that need a greater, a more vivid illustration to what is absolutely impossible. If it's not enough, I don't have to convince you, I have to prosecute, and this is the evidence that's going to prosecute in federal court. But nonetheless, with regard to what is unmistakable demonic activity, the impossibility that the sun is remaining over me in Las Vegas, Nevada in the same way at the same time when I'm in Ontario, California, because that's what the body of evidence demonstrates. When I'm living and working at in Los Angeles, and I'm capturing the light source remaining over me at the same time in Las Vegas, Nevada. So you can go across state lines, and the sun is not remaining perpetually present over everyone in all the states, everywhere, no matter whether you're traveling or whether you're stationary for the duration of the day. That's not the sun. That is identifying the pattern of conduct where you are criminally targeted amongst demons who know what you're saying, they know what you're doing, they know they're tracking your steps, maintaining presence with regard to where it is that you're headed to while you're subject to surveillance on your communication devices. You're using your GPS. Okay, they're aware of where it is that you're intending to travel. If not just tracking you, if you're not using GPS, just following you as a population, which is maliciously appearing as just traffic all around you. And it's the maintenance of presence in the path in the specific environment that is identifying stalking by demons. This is what's being concentrated inside of a hotel, which is literally going to be dismantled with regard to damages and literal the federal imprisonment of everybody working for the venue and those that are criminally remaining at the venue. All right, they're doing so in concert with the rest of the population. That's what you'll see on video, the specific environment, and you'll also see the specific environment inside of the hotel because the placement of that fake sun has nothing to do with that blue tinted engineer light at the ceiling in the hallway of that of this hotel where demons, 2 Latino males, are group stalking that is terrorizing and sexually violating myself, a woman, in a hotel room, a private space, and doing so increasingly so. Okay, while they're monitoring evidence. That's federal stalking. They're going to federal prison. That's what the rest of the people of the state are doing as well. And that's the substance of what you'll see on video. These are the same demons that are group stalking while I am documenting on an ongoing basis. This is why Jason, who was documented answering the phone at the front desk at 6 in the morning, he's going to federal prison. Maria L., this demon, this sex offender entering into my hotel room, who's trying to cover up her name tag while she knew that she was being documented. Again, assuming, they're not assuming, they know exactly what you're doing. Holding up your phone does not mean, nor should any stranger. Why would I be taking a picture of this? There's nothing to write home about Maria L., okay? And by the way, let's put it in the proper context. Maria L. is obsessed with me. Maria L. is group stalking me. But Maria L. is a demon who is also aware of what's being going on my phone. And that's why Maria L. is group stalking in this specific environment in this hallway and trying to cover up her name tag. That's what you'll see that demon doing. She's going to federal prison. She can put on somebody else's name tag. She can duck and dodge for the rest of the time that I'm here. She's not going to. She's an obsessed group stalker. And the demon possessed, the mentally ill, they engage in more. And that's why they're going to federal prison for a prolonged term. All right. But nonetheless, there's nothing that she can do, in other words, that's going to prevent her from going to federal prison. And if she is not a natural born citizen, Maria L. and every other demon that's working at this hotel, staying at this hotel as a patron, documented in and around this hotel as I document the people of the state, they're all going to federal prison. And it's not different with regard to the demons that represent the county. That's the state acting directly. Any demons working for the San Bernardino Probation Department, they're group stalkers. They're being documented. I don't have to go inside of that department and get everybody's name, which, by the way, the entity is not going to reasonably provide to you. And that's a threat to your life. You don't have to do that. Okay. The entity that's being documented, any of those within this population that are not natural born, this is going to do wonders for the population in California. It's going to do wonders for the economy, ridding the state of domestic terrorists that have been granted the privilege to be in this state. You're out of here. Working for the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, the Victorville Police Department. I don't care if you're a demon that's chief of police. You're out. You're out. You are out. The entity is doing so through the San Bernardino County Probation Department, through the San Bernardino County Adoption Agency. They're all being documented simultaneously, in addition to the people of the state that I'm documenting, not only by license plate, but also by virtue of the businesses. When I say everyone's being documented, that's exactly what I mean. Every customer, every employee of the entity that's surrounding the hotel, they're all being documented at the same time. And of the prosecution of the state, within that population, those that are not natural born citizens, they are out of this country. Understand what domestic terrorism shall be met with regard to the resolution for terrorism in the states. Engaging in this un-American conduct with a corrupt government, that corrupt government has no way to protect you. They can't even protect itself, and you're out of this country. You're out. And you're looking, and when you see this video that I captured again during the 3 p.m. hour, approximately 3:38, I believe. Let me look right here at the presence of the, the timing of this video right now. I captured that video at 3:19 p.m. You'll see why. domestic terrorism is going to be met with not only federal prison, not only the criminal record of domestic terrorists, but also sex offenders, violent sex offenders, and permanent deportation. There is no basis whereby you can earn the right to be back. You don't have a right to be in this country and engage in terrorism. You don't have a right to be here. You don't have a right to be here, and it's been permanently revoked, okay? And the mentally ill demons who are group stalking at Holiday Inn are just the ongoing demonstration as to why that is the case. That's the resolution for federal group stalking and monitoring: loss of citizenship, loss of naturalization. And the entire state that is engaging in the pattern of conduct, that is documented engaged in this P.O.C. with the state, is subject to that same exact treatment. There is no respecter of persons, okay? So you have a lot of those, by the way, that are government actors. They're benefiting off of the immigration system. And they're in this country, in this state, engaging in this system of terrorism. And they are watching their own demise, their own exposure, and their impeachment from the positions that they hold. There are facts and circumstances that will amount to what is a prosecution. You're not protected. And the facts and circumstances surrounding whatever it is that you've engaged in, it's going to find its way to your front desk. And you are not excluded from being subject to a criminal prosecution for domestic terrorism in concert with these highly unintelligent demons whom your group stalking with. The entities engaging in a pattern of conduct which shall also be met with with deportation. All right, and so this is the P.O.C. It's currently 3:49 p.m. And I'm going to capture video right now. The entity's keeping the fake sun over me while the Los Angeles Police Department were group stalking by helicopter at the Alvarado Gardens. And that is the specific environment that is going to be juxtaposed with the placement of the specific environment here in Victorville, California, which is not the natural environment. So I'm going to capture that video right now. This is the podcast that will be uploaded for what is October 20th, 2024. This is P.O.C. All right, 4:29 p.m., the entity group stalking and ongoing harassment under the fake sun, which was captured in substantial video. These are the hostile sex offenders who are going to federal prison, which is necessary for the benefit of the public, for the protection of the public. Slamming the hotel room door 424. Or the adjacent one 426 with simultaneity to my uploading, that is touching my phone screen at the same time. Slam the door. That's a psychopath. That's a sex offender. That's a demon that's lying in wait. That's not an ongoing coincidence amongst the engineer light under the fake sun. Those are the mentally ill that are group stalking with Holiday Inn, and Holiday Inn acts with impunity. Holiday Inn is a domestic terrorist and a violent sex offender. That is that company name. And the sex offenders that they're checking hotel rooms out, they're group stalking with them, and also the sex offenders that are under the employ of Holiday Inn, the IHG hotel. That's ongoing terrorism. That's documented 4:30 p.m. The demons that are working at the venue are accessing the rooms and using the keys, and the demons that are checking out hotel rooms, using the rooms as a means of stalking with noise, using the hotel rooms, they're using key cards and also keeping the doors cracked open with regard to that lying in wait behavior while they are literally monitoring every move. So I just want to document that this is ongoing terrorism at 4:30 p.m. I'm publishing in real time right now, and I will be publishing right now the podcast after capturing substantial video, like I promised, showing you the fake sun that's remaining over me in Victorville, California, at the same hotel where I'm capturing the light source at 8:48 in the morning. So that is 7 hours later. The entity is keeping the fake sun over the same address. That's the specific environment. That's textbook P.O.C. Okay, that is the classic identification of what's in conformity to what I'm documenting. It's literally, that is absolutely a scientific impossibility, and it's a matter of tangible evidence. And that's what I was speaking of earlier. You're not going to sit in federal court. I mean, you can. Okay, they're very highly unintelligent. The entity is not prepared at all for prosecution for this satanic targeting system. But so a demon can sit in federal court and try to focus on the point. I'm not a demon. I'm not a demon. I was baptized in 1973, and I lead the Bible study that's legally irrelevant. Nobody wants to hear about it. But you are a demon under the fake sun. That's remaining. 4:31 p.m. A demon group stalking on the 4th floor in the engineer light, which is a matter of video and images, and they're group stalking by pacing in and out of their hotel rooms while they're listening to their own demise, which is why they're going to federal prison. So this is relevant to what is the ongoing documentation of group stalking by the entity while it is monitoring evidence. The entity that is engaged in obstruction of justice, in other words, and that's relevant to enhancement to federal charges, sentencing, and the damages. Okay, while they're pacing in and out, slamming hotel room doors, which is also harassment and terrorism as an entity. A bunch of psychopath sex offenders who are mad. None of these demons, no demon, no third party, no state actor shall sit in federal court and argue what is legally irrelevant. You're trying to prove or disprove that you're a demon. The world actually knows what you are, and also that you will never be able to face the truth of what you are and what you've done while you're doing it with impunity, and are mad about the fact that you are angry about your being a sex offender. You need to know that you're a demon-possessed individual. The fact that you are still engaging in that, which is no longer a secret, and you're hostile about it being exposed, hostile that you can't secretly target someone in a way in which they're not perplexed by it, and they're not devastated such that, no, that's not happening, and you're going to be devastated with a federal prosecution. You're a demon-possessed individual while you're engaging in that. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct with impunity under the fake sun while they're monitoring evidence, and the hotel room door closure is occurring with simultaneity to the operation of my phone. That is the pattern of conduct by the demon-possessed who are engaged in what is legally referred to as federal stalking. They're monitoring on communication devices. Their monitoring is also affecting the operation of the internet. That's relevant to what is obstruction of justice as well. And they're checking out their rooms with the ID and credit card numbers, and everybody with them is also relevant. Minor children, relevant. The group stalking with any other adult. The entire comprehensive prosecution of the state, and the demon-possessed that are clearly working at the venue, they're all going to federal prison, and they're group stalking with the demons that are paying money to engage in group stalking me. All right. And they're all going to federal prison. That obsession is illustrated through the willingness to pay money to engage in an unpersuasive system on behalf of a corrupt government who's I stated years ago, I have already established that the state is engaged in group stalking. And it has been my objective to prosecute the demon-possessed people of the state. I stated that very clearly in this documentation. And that's exactly what has already been accomplished. And that's exactly what I continue to do, adding more names to what is necessary for the benefit of the public and this country. Domestic terrorists, violent sex offenders who do engage in things such as having sex with minor children while they are hostile because their sexual violence is being documented. That's the likes of a sex offender that will rape minor children. Okay, that's the likes of sex offenders that engage in sex trafficking and then are hostile. They're mad because you enforce your rights. That's the likes. That's the sexually violent predator that needs to be detained. Okay, that's what's slamming doors with regard to monitoring evidence. Okay, it's working at the venue. It's checking out hotel rooms at the venue. That's a threat to my life, which Holiday Inn is going to compensate me for. Okay, the entity is doing so with impunity and malice. It's 4:34 p.m. This is documentation speaking to the ongoing documentation of the pattern of conduct. It is also in writing, a PDF, which I'm capturing on a daily basis in the specific environment where there is no sun that's remaining outside and over my head in the same manner. My bedroom window at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles at the same time, 3:48 p.m., and also over my head at the leasing office, where you can also see, even at the same property, the maintenance of that fake sun directly over the top of my head while I'm at my office, directly over the top of my head while I'm inside of my apartment. That's what's happening while I stay inside of the hotel, 8:48 a.m. until 3:48 p.m., remaining inside of this hotel, 5:32 p.m. on video. That's non-movement of a fake sun, where demons, violent sex offenders who engage in things that you readily identify as sexual violence, that's the people of the state that are group stalking. Those that violate children, those that violate men and women, absent their consent and knowledge, are exceedingly violent terrorists that are mad because they are being prosecuted, enforcing the rights of another that doesn't want to be sexually violated, that doesn't want to be stalked and targeted. That's the mental illness of sex offenders. Okay. And they're checking out rooms to their own demise. Okay. It's 4:35 p.m. I'm publishing right now the podcast at 4:35 p.m. So you can expect it before 5 p.m. On Sunday, October 20th, 2024. This is P.O.C.